But moving on to the last one that we have in theaters is The Nun II, a movie that came out last week. And somehow, if I'm not mistaken, what I was reading up, it beat A Haunting in Venice at the box office. So that just shows you that the marketing either wasn't there,
Our
or
lifestyle.
people aren't there for it. What did you think of Haunting in Venice not keeping a name? You know, The Nun II, it's in the chapter. But the other one, I think it's interesting to change up the name from Murder in the Orient Express to Death on the Nile to A Haunting in Venice. Do you think it hurts it? Do you think people even care that it's the third one in a movie? Where do you think it messed up to not be able to take the top spot?
Well, I think there's sometimes diminishing returns with a franchise, particularly when like the previous one wasn't exactly like a big hit or particularly well received, and you know,
before COVID though.
Yeah, no? I mean, I don't know if it's like it's that movie's fault, but at the same time, you don't have the same audience investment there, right? Like, I'm sure there's some people out there who are like, well, I'm not going to see it because I didn't see the last one or whatever. Yeah, it's just never, I don't know. It feels like, to me, it feels more like diminishing returns of something rather than like the audience suddenly like deciding against this one, you know, even if it was like the continuing adventures of Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot. I don't know if that would make much of a difference. The mustache
continues.
Yeah,
I feel like The Nun 2 just had the better marketing. The way that they've been pushing this movie out to make it feel like it's a part of an event. Yeah. We've been calling her the Thanos of this Conjuring universe, the CCU, and they really pushed that in here.
I mean, The Conjuring is also just like a dominant force in the past. Yeah, people underestimate it, but it's those movies make a lot of money, and I think just a horror like this is a lot simpler to sell too. Like it just has to satisfy curiosity that it's sufficiently scary, right? Like if the trailer looks scary, people who watch scary movies will show up.
Mm-hmm. On top of that, The Nun, out of all the Conjuring movies, made the most. This thing almost cracked $500 million. Like, they knew this was going to be the one that was going to get a sequel no matter what.
That's the stronger franchise right now.
Somehow. But it's not the stronger franchise right now, if that makes any sense. This is a movie where they know they could put whatever they want and people are going to go see this story. But it has come with some baggage. I don't know if you were reading up on what has happened in the background, but Bonnie Aarons, who plays the nun, has pushed to litigation because she has been getting no residuals on her image that is the nun. There's a great backstory for that. I want to cover it more a bit later, but that has caused a lot of stalling in the franchise, may cause a split on where the nun may go, because if you know the story of the nun, this is a character who takes the shape of whatever a main person is feeling or what their fear is.
Right.
Our main character here didn't want to take her vows in the first movie, and thus this demon pretends to be a nun. She's already taken her vows. Why is she still a nun? Why would it still be a nun years later when it combines with The Conjuring 2? I don't know. That is for them to figure out. But the nun makes a lot of money, so she's still going to continue using that. How that's going to deal with the behind-the-scenes drama, we'll see. But in this movie, it's kind of a round two for... what's her name's character? Let's see if I pop it up over here. Sister Irene, played by one of the Farmiga sisters, who I think they're going to really combine, considering that obviously not Tessa, but Vera is the lead character for the Conjuring series. The way that they're kind of leading them up, I feel like there's going to be a relationship there.
It almost seems bizarre that they haven't done that yet.
I think that's what they're leading to, because they have a couple of sequences here, without getting into too much spoilers, where they're combining a lot of them to kind of showcase that the events from the Nun series is going to combine with the Conjuring, kind of bring everything full circle, so you kind of have really an Avengers, an MCU thing where you have all these different things going on. This is a movie that also kind of sets up more artifacts, where it reminds you a lot of the Pope's Exorcist, where that movie ends by telling you, and there was a lot of other exorcisms that we can make movies out of that he's covered in his books. It almost feels like they want to make a Nun series where they go through a lot of Catholic paintings and monuments and artifacts that they can kind of go and excavate and make these new different things where they fight new demons on a weekly basis. And somehow they're still allowed to make these into motion pictures. I didn't care for it too much. I think it ends in the same place that the first one ended. It's very redundant at times. And this is another one where it's become a faith-based movie. This is a film that is telling you that if the nun exists and is a demon, then the only way to beat it is through God. Praise be, hallelujah. This movie damn near ends in a prayer, in a revival circle. That is what these movies, ironically, have now become. I just wish they were a little bit. I was praying that they would be a little bit more interesting. I don't think there's anything wrong with the cast that they have. It's still a pretty strong cast. It's just not as strong a story, which I found kind of disappointing because it has a writer that we really enjoy, Akilah Cooper, who did *Malignant*, who was able to really have that camp. She did *Megan* earlier this year.
Yeah.
It could be because there's 2 other writers on here, and I heard that there was a couple of other changes that they threw as they were working on the movie. But I will give Michael Chavez credit on a lot of his visuals. I think he shot Conjuring 3 to look very well. I think La Llorona had some moments in there. He may not have the strongest scripts, but there are several moments in The Nun II. There's, in particular, this book stand magazine sequence. Fantastic. It looks beautiful, even if some of the jump scares are dumb as can be. So if you're a fan of the Nun series, I think this is just a little bit better than the first one. But the first one was less boring. It was more dumb, but less boring than this one. Obviously, they're going to continue these, so if you're a big fan of the Conjuring series, I'm curious where this lands on your timeline. This would still be in the lower half. Conjuring, still the strongest. Annabelle, and then I'd put the Nuns in there. So,
Yeah.
if you're curious on this one, check it out. It is in theaters right now.
I didn't want
With it being Warner Bros.
I didn't want to catch it because I didn't catch the first. I need to make sure I'm on the
That's
continuity.
what it was. It wasn't those loud IMAX trailers that wouldn't leave us alone. Zach didn't want to leave with Valak attached to him.
Exactly.
So the Nun II, it's out in theaters.